Well, hello everybody. This is David Bianco. Thanks for joining me today. Well, since releasing my review of the Steely Dan Aja release on UHQR by Analogue Productions the other day, I've had several people commenting and asking, how does that one sound compared to the general release a month ago by Universal, the $30 version that came out, and to determine, well, how much better is the UHQR? Well, I'm going to tell you what I found out next as we take another Safe and Sound Texas audio excursion. Just as a quick reminder, going back to when the series for Steely Dan was first announced to be reissued, September 16, 2022, Analogue Productions has the responsibility to be making these 2 LP 45 RPM UHQRs on Clarity vinyl, while Universal Music is releasing a $30 version to the general public in retail stores and online. So this again has continued. Something that was a little different with Aja is that the original release date on the last Friday of September for Aja was kept by Universal, and they released the $30 version, whereas Analogue Productions delayed the release of Aja on UHQR by 1 month to the last Friday in October, and that most likely was because they interjected the release of the White Stripes Elephant on UHQR at the end of September. So my guess is between pressing time and also announcements and getting the Elephant one in there and slotted and moving from the announcement, that caused the delay in this, and was decided there would be a separation this time in the release date. I think after this one, at least right now, it looks like the dates will begin to coincide again when there will be a release from Universal and from Analogue Productions, in this case coming up Gaucho December 1st, 2023. But I digress. So what we have here are these two releases out there now, and I picked up the $30 version, as I'll call it, today to do a comparison because there were several people that asked about that. And so it's pretty easy to do now that I know the UHQR is kind of like the winner, the best out there. So now we're comparing it. I'm comparing it also to the original first pressing as well and the MoFi. But the style of the one that came out for $30, once you start listening to the album, it gets to be pretty easy to make the comparison and tell you my judgment on it. Now, overall with these are on the nice rainbow again, but they say Geffen, not ABC. This label is very similar to the one on the Analogue Productions as well. It doesn't have the black Geffen label like it was on some of the previous releases, which I think is nice. It looks a lot better. So what we have here is the transfer that's done in this case. The difference in these two is more than the difference between $150 and $30. It is the difference in the fact that Bernie Grundman, who is mastering this reissue, uses the mastering off analog tape directly to cut the lacquer for the UHQR. Whereas on this version, the $30 Universal version, he creates a high-res file off of his master and then sends it off to have the lacquer cut. In this case, again, by Alex Abrash, who did Can't Buy a Thrill, and he also did Pretzel Logic. And Alex then takes that digital file and cuts the lacquer. So there is a distinction in the way this is done. As I mentioned, one of the other differences in my mind is the fact that once Bernie does some mastering, He then sends off the lacquer to Chad at Analogue Productions to do a small run, a test press run of the album for him to listen to each side and determine what he likes or doesn't like, and then has Bernie pretty much always cut a secondary version on lacquer, or a third or a fourth or a fifth or whatever it takes. Can't Buy a Thriller was up to 7 on one side, for example. So there is a distinction here to be made. That kind of iteration is not happening as it relates to this lacquer being cut for the $30. It doesn't have Chad's decision making in that at all. Bernie is taking what in fact he first does as a master and sends that file to Alex. So there's a little more tweaking and things going on with the final version we get on the 4 sides of the UHQR versus what we get with this particular one that's $30. So how does it sound? Well, honestly, after listening to the UHQR and getting engulfed in it and then listening to it even more after I did the video, wow. I mean, that record is phenomenal. It's a standard bearer. I can't say enough about it in terms of the imaging, the accuracy, the clarity, the poignancy of the music, and the placement of the instruments and the vocals. And, it's a marvel in my opinion. And so you go and put this one on. Okay. And here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter which track it was at the end of the day. I pretty much could close my eyes listening to this and imagined the speaker that I have and the dimensions of the speaker in width and height, and know that it was coming out of that object on the left and the right. I mean, it literally is a boxed in sound. Now, does it sound bad? No, it sounds clean and you can hear things, not nearly the detail you can on the UHQR, but it definitely doesn't have that aura, doesn't have that room-filling feel. It just has 2, in my case, rectangular objects pointed toward me that are throwing sound at me. That is the impression I get from this recording up and down all the songs. And when you have that other thing there that you've just listened to and the openness of it, and you even have the OG or the MoFi having some decent imagery, this really falls flat. And I'm not here to tell you why. I'm not here to say it's because of the digital. I'm not here to say any of that. I don't know why. I'm just telling you what the impression is. So, it sounds decent. If you want to be in the other room and you're listening, it sounds fine. But, really didn't get a whole lot more out of it than I did the MoFi Gold CD, for example, or even the production CD from when it was first released. It's quiet vinyl, more or less, not too noisy, maybe an 8 out of 10 in quietness. Not nearly what the UHQR is, but a hair better maybe than the original. But as far as the ability to really reproduce at the level and depth of the bass and the mids and the highs and create that imaging and airiness and openness with segregation of instruments and depth of the singers, and really having that force field, that sound field, be very expansive in your room, this really shrinks. And that's just the way it sounds. And I can't really describe it any other way. There's no point in going through song by song because it pretty much falls across the board. Again, I'm not going to ascribe as to why that is. It just is what it is. But again, people have to make their choices. This is a new clean copy, so to speak. I would say if you spend a few more bucks and get an OG, you'll get a better sounding record off of it for sure. If you really love the album and you can do the $150 for the UHQR, that is the top flight meal. That is the best thing on the menu. There is no doubt about it. Now, people will ask me, okay, well, this is 30, this 150, so does the UHQR sound 5 times better than this? And I got to tell you, the answer is no. I mean, it's a lot more than 5 times. It's 10, 20, 30, it's whatever metric you want to use, but it sounds a lot more than 5 times better. I mean, this isn't a matter of eking out a few more things. In some ways, the $30 one is a step in the wrong direction, a step backwards. So for me, that's an easy conclusion. Now, if you want to say, is it twice as good as a $75 OG? I'd say still the UHQR is more than twice better than the OG in terms of the satisfaction that you get once you hear it, right? A lot of things when you look at it on the plate, you go, okay, that's really expensive, piece of meat there. That's really a really prime type of meat. How is it? Well, taste it, see what it's like. Once it melts in your mouth, then all of a sudden you kind of stop thinking about the price a little bit at that point because you get that satisfaction that you could not get any other way. You've just got to immerse yourself into what it is. And there is no better word to use for the UHQR than it immerses you into the studio, into where the sounds were made and the instruments were played and the singers were singing. And, you can't ask for anything better than that. And in this case, we always thought we had, the best of the best. And I've even read where people who have the Cisco believe that this UHQR beats the Cisco as well. Again, I've heard the Cisco myself. I didn't have it to do an A/B, but I was much more blown away by the UHQR when I heard it compared to how blown away I was by the Cisco compared to the original. So that's just a relative metric to give you. So I would say that the $30 one is you get what you pay for. And I would say that it really is, in my mind, very limiting. And to be honest, a recording this great that was done back in '77 deserves a better treatment. It deserves a better sound. Now, do you get a little decent clarity out of some things? Sure, you do. But is it open? Is it bold? Is it giving you everything that's there? Absolutely not. And is it restricting you in terms of what you're hearing and how you're hearing it? Absolutely, it is restricting. So that's what they made. That's what came out. I honestly have to say that recording this good deserves a better pressing and mastering than this one received. So those are my thoughts on this. Thanks for watching. As always, if you haven't subscribed, please press the bell down there and pick the all option. And if you give me a thumbs up or a like, that always is appreciated as well. Any comments you have, I'd love to see what they are. I love replying to them and staying engaged with you as always. So until next time, thanks for watching on the Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. Take care, everybody.